Well, hello people, and welcome to part 25 of Illium, our modded CS1 build. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Thoroughly enjoying the renovated views from the start of the city that we worked on last episode, especially with the downtown side across the river now. Such an impressive city vista from here, isn't it? Really enjoying this whole central section of Illium, which we'll be continuing to contribute to today with our first airport build, which is quite late for an airport build in my cities. But very much today we're going to be building a regional inner city downtown airport, taking tons of inspiration from London City Airport, obviously in London, with how public transport converges at the terminal, runway configuration, and the positioning of the entire facility against a huge body of water. Should be a lot of fun. I always enjoy my airport builds, especially with the freedom of the mods available. Well, happy Monday to you all, and welcome back to Illium, everyone. So we'll start by deforesting the whole land. Reason here, it would be nice to reclaim what is quite a lot of trees here. It's probably a few thousand of them. Many several hundred. Because if we draw under them, they might come into our tree count, which we don't want to, because a lot of the content created trees as we're finding here in the downtown do hit the frame rate a little bit. So try and be a little easier on them. So we'll start by painting our airport area down. And we're going to push this out to the same height as this peninsula. Now, we are going to end up eating into quite a lot of the land here, but I'm planning on re-terraforming it, I think, once I'm happy with the terminal configuration. But we'll see how this pans out. So, terraforming, please, don't worry. I realise I have a debt to pay, and it will be paid. If you weren't aware, this tool does terraform, if you're wondering why that's happening, if you're not familiar with the DLC. So I mentioned in the intro we're looking at London City Airport today, definitely for the front of the terminal, how the metro arrives for people to get off. We also have monorail to play with here today as well. And plus how the runway actually sits against the water with the configuration that we like. Editing, I'm sure, will be leaving lots of fun Google Earth footage up for us. We're also going to name this airport today after Bryce Johnson, one of our wonderful Golden Egg patrons. Thank you so much for all your incredible support, Bryce. And you do get the whole regional airport named after you here today. Wonderful scenes. So we'll wait for this water to subside, then we can get our runways down. So I'll talk through my airport process here, because I know many players find these things quite difficult to build. So I always start with my runways. Now I do want a road guideline here. Now where I want the runways a little far, and I think I'll snap everything to this main straight bit of rail here. But we also have some rail yard possibilities, but I think that might factor into a factory build lying near the airport. Again, for which we'll likely take inspiration from London, because there's quite a lot of fun things there, to be honest. Cool. So these roads are aligning to the rail on 90-degree angles, so we know that our snap point for the runway will also align with that as well. So we'll come here. Don't think I'm too close to the interchange there. We'll see. Sure, the aviation police, of course, will have a keen eye on today's episode. And I know the aviation police, one of the things that triggers them the most is the length of the runways. I'm going to try and bring in a significant chungus here. I think we should go for 280, a nice round 280. Let's get a sense of this scale compared to the rest of the city. Only going to have one runway configuration here. The international complex is likely to lie, I think, on a terraformed landmass on the peninsula, very New Zealand style, like we've mentioned before. You can watch previous episodes for talks on that. Delete our road frame that we don't need anymore. And then we'll plug in the very base configuration. So I like to go for, I think I'll keep it 10 units here. So 10 units off the runway with our taxiways. Now, because we have Anarchy, yeah, this does connect, doesn't it? Although it won't actually allow it, would it? Okay, that's fine then. And we'll do that visually, create some other connections onto the runway. And then we just want to adjust our directions. They must enter at the bottom and leave at the end, is how you generally want to configure your airport's DLC stuff. Super. So that's our first bit of configuration. Now I want to turn our attention towards the terminal. For this, I think I'm going to run with a slightly older classic terminal. And we'll say then again, ultra modern. It is nice. It is nice, isn't it? Yeah, I think we'll stick with classic. I had that in mind. Also going to trim this network back here. I think I'm likely just to any very awkward transitions today and gradients will smooth out. Plus, we give ourselves a touch more room. I'm going to pull this rail stuff back a little bit. This shouldn't be too hard to get back into position. Just gradually reintroduce the curve here to adjust to that new angle. Actually managed to create a little lake here with the flooding, which is quite fun. Something like that. It's not too bad an adjustment. We'll do smooths and curves with network multi-tool in our detailing. And now let's align our terminals. So again, I want this to be angled toward my runways here. So we'll do that, and then we'll test. I'm not going to have any massive jumbos landing here. They'll be in the international. So I think I'll stick with small and medium. So if we can have... I think I'll be happy with that for them to peel off. We could also turn off road bending here as well, which will give us some inconsistencies. How does this respond to node control of these networks? Yeah, we have another node super close here, don't we? Yeah, there you go. That's what's causing that to happen. A little bit of move it just to pull that along. So scale, I'm happy with that there. And then our medium aircraft stands are a little deeper. So I want to make sure we can align these as well. Again, I'm constantly referencing to London City Airport here as to how I want things to just sit against the all the networks around it. I think I'll do another 10 units away from this one here. So from there to there is 10 units. And then we'll have our medium aircraft stands. I'll likely do some more. Again, I'm just adjusting for scale and position here. And then we want to look at a terminal. I don't want a two-story one. I think that's too modern. And then here, I'd love to have this fit. So it comes in on an angle and just adds a little bit of shape into the terminal for us. We can do that there. I wonder how... Can these be shifted? Oh, they can. Isn't that interesting? Okay. I'm going to do that then. I'm going to shift it so it goes back straight on this angle. We'll rotate the node as well. If you check out the ILOS airport, you can do some really fun things with node controller on the terminals. I'll give a brief example. But because you can stretch them, you can change this to like 150%. And then you repeat this down the line, and you can end up creating these like bulbous terminals, almost like a constant infinity loop or like figure of 8 pattern. So feel free to experiment with that. I'm not going to do it here today. I'm quite happy with how they are. I don't want this facility to be too over the top, I suppose. But check out the ILOS episode if you do want to see an insanely over the top modded airport. That was a lot of fun to build that one. Cool, so I'm happy with the terminal configuration. We'll run it a little bit again. I don't think it's going to be that long, but it'll give us connections in for the meantime. First of all, now again, glancing back to London City Airport, there is certainly metro convergence here, and we also have monorail to play with as well. I think it makes sense for us to use the metro terminal here. Now this does want to be connected to the concourse, but I wonder again if I can possibly have some fun bringing this off a little bit. Let's do 8 units as a little box. Now if we were to node control this to be really small, let's say a 50% stretch here. And then here again as well, we'll do all nodes on this corner. Guess I need to do it on that one as well, actually, don't I? And then these small nodes on this instance, it's the red. Down to 50%. And then red again in this instance. 50% there. So you see how it really narrows the terminal. Because I think I want the metro just to be sat a little bit off the main building. So like this little horseshoe here is almost like metro access for the airport. And then looks like the 8 units will pretty much fit perfectly. So we can have it protrude out without it being so thick, because then I think it looks a little bit clunky sometimes, I think. We should be able to just network multi-curve this in pretty simply, to be honest. That one here to here. Perfect. And then we'll also network multi-slope this entire metro from station to station. 0.4%. And that should give us a really cool approach up into the app. I love this bridge going over. I might get some more after dark lights on this. Then that'd be quite fun. I think this is really going to shape up to one of our best airports, everyone, you know? I think the whole, just the where we're putting this build is going to make it quite special. So I think this metro is going to terminate here. It won't go any further. It'll be the monorail that carries on. That can stop there. Now let's bring in our roads. We've got a 4-lane bus road here. So we'll come down again, snapping to the road guidelines of the rail. Just want to see my topography here at the same time too. Again, I'm going to run this bus road all the way down. It likely won't remain bus road, only I guess up until where the buses are flowing. And of course out here we've got a great little detail spot for adding people into these metros, because like these do have entrances down here. And stairs even, which are actually overgrown. I never noticed that before. But definitely something to be had there, I think, isn't there? Curve that in. Of course, this bus road also comes from the inner city downtown hub as well. And then we'll configure our terminal entrance. So we'll grab one-way non-parking roads. We'll have this tucked into there. Straighten that up slightly so it is 90 degrees. I think I'm going to draw it up on this one actually so I know I'm perfectly 90 degrees. Bring that down. We can hook that back in right beneath the metro. Lots of car parking and drop-off space, of course, by the front of the terminal, which is especially prevalent around the London City Airport inspiration I'm looking at today. We'll go for some of these Railroad of Japan car parks, since I think they're a little more, I guess, airport appropriate. I'll probably use some of the other ones as well. Multi-stories, etc. I'm just going to make sure all the nodes around here are set to the same height. That'll stop the concrete tearing on this asset. And we could probably double that up, you know. I think I'm happy to have back-to-back car parking here. Now, they're actually close enough to remain connected. So I think I'm happy with that. Definitely looks more airport, this car parking, doesn't it? With the toll gates on the front, kind of secure fenced-in parking if you're leaving it here long term. So I think I'm happy to have that at the front of the terminal there. The monorail also needs to come and join us, for which I think we'll have a stop directly by the terminal here. We're also suffering crime and garbage over here as well. So possible airport police station will come in. And let's address the monorail situation. So I think here. And then again, this is going to be a really nice little area to develop, especially creating walkability here. Up and two between these crossroads. Some slightly insane node work there. Pull that back down. And now let's get our monorail plugged in. So we'll probably end up deleting that pillar, although it's not in the way of the metro, is it? Now, will you squeeze alongside perfectly? Oh my word, it will as well. Isn't that fantastic, everyone? It was almost like it was made to be. Planned, even. Almost. So bring this through. We're going to collide with the bridge here. We will have to either sink or raise the bridge. That's fine. We've come across many of those little instances before. And then this will just swoop right alongside the rail and then tuck in perfectly just there. Now we can finally, I think we're probably ready for a first-person tour of a lot of these networks now they run from airport in and around the downtown. I am due to be away on holiday for a little bit soon, so we'll expect them then. Fantastic. I'm not sure if I should keep the metro running. Go very nice with that, wouldn't it? I'm not sure. I might leave that gap open so we can bring it in. But otherwise, now we have the terminal in. Let's go ahead and configure the rest of the airfield and hopefully welcome our first flights. Return to our airfield. You can see that one there. He's just slightly angled because we did that node controller work on the terminal is why that's happening. We'll just correct a little bit of that with move it. And I think we'll just keep it 4. I think it's quite easy to overplace these airport stands. So we'll keep that sensible. I'm going to run access for the small planes to get straight back to the airport here. So you can see true 90 degrees again because that building's technically rotated isn't actually straight. So we want it to be 89.3 there. You won't have that unless you've not done that node controller work. It won't be an issue. Then again, road bending off. And we will tuck happily into here. Give ourselves a touch of node adjustment. There we can see they're too close together. And that should help fix any tearing we get. Pull that green one back a little bit. But there we go, here's our first plane, everyone. Let's enjoy the view, shall we, as it takes off. the skyline in the background. Have a little look. The nighttime views are going to be wonderful here. Make sure you hang around for the final cinematics, everyone. Making lots of key work here as well along this this runway here. Come on, let's go. Let's get a move on. Let's take off. Hopefully they don't take a ridiculous flight path. Of course they do. Straight. A full 180. Of course. That's okay. We'll hopefully see our... Oh, and then he does another 180. And then he's done a little 90 degrees. No, he's going that way. That's fine. Can't be helped. There's nothing I can do to control that, unfortunately. But I'm happy with that. So where we had the natural shape of the land here, this is where I was talking about re-terraforming, just to introduce a little bit of that natural shape back in, especially where we won't have keys. Probably around this end. So start pushing it out. Just make it look a little bit less obviously terraformed. Little peninsulas, overgrowth, wetland, etc. Just so it's not as rigid. And then we'll start the key probably from where the planes join here, I think. Is the general plan for that. Let's go ahead and get our medium planes hooked in as well. Straight in. And we'll do... I think one more of these. I'm actually looking as to what actually sits next to the terminal at London City. And there's a lot of parked planes here actually. That's something I'd like to bring in. You can see where our nodes are too close together there. Pull them back. This one doesn't look too bad there actually. Wonderful. So talking about some other runway entrances by essentially painting out mock taxiways, we can have quite a lot of fun with the airport design. So let's have, let's say, one here, shall we? So we'll do kind of a U-shaped curve with a pathway. You can do this in vanilla. You obviously just don't have the flexibility of Anarchy. You just have to be a little more precise and measured. And then we want to do the same over here again as well. I could actually just in this instance make sure I get that exact same curve. You just copy both the nodes and rotate it. So we get something like that. And then you can use the airport aprons. In my case, I can also use the ploppable concrete surfaces we have. And then you just want to hug the edge of the pathway. Something like this. Until you have most of it covered in. And then you can essentially repeat this. Actually, I basically can just repeat it now in one go, can't I? Because I have move it. Make sure we grab all those nodes. And all these surfaces here as well. And we can copy that and then just move it down the airfield. We'll have another one. Say here. And then another one perhaps over here by this entrance. Aviation police might be triggered by this. I can only apologise if you are. Anything leeching over. Just tuck it in. Again, totally doable in vanilla. Okay, and then once we have that in, when it's not clipping over, of course, let me change that quickly. There we go. There's the case in point, right? So you can do a lot of things there. You can get custom assets off the workshop that let you do this, that will function. But I'm obviously trying to keep it official assets here. So a little bit of airport apron and some curved vanilla pathway. I think we'll add an awful lot into your airfields. You can kind of see a before and after here, right? Not sure what these are called or what they're used for. I am not that familiar with aviation. But I'm sure, again, the aviation police in the comments will be able to inform us of that. So happy with that. Airport is running. A cargo airport obviously won't be here. That'll probably be part of the international complex. Or maybe an entire separate facility. I guess we'll see. That'll give us 3 airports in the map then if we separate it. I want to grab some planes now. So we'll have our small parked planes. Again, I'm looking here again at London City. And they're simply just sat by the terminals themselves. Parked up. Waiting to go. I'll just have them here. And then we can use the larger airport apron. Surface paint will likely play a bit of a part here today as well. Just to create that fully concrete texture. Airport apron is seriously one of the go assets of CS1. how we played the game before these. I have no idea. And I'll use that plane as a boundary for the actual terminal itself to end here. Special. I'm happy with that. Again, plenty more detail around here. Let's go ahead and get in some hangars and fuel tanks. I think would be quite fun too. Now, I love these fuel tank assets, which are really nice to very much be visible kind of from... Again, what am I going to do with this road here? Could use that as back access into these fuel tanks actually that we're about to put down. Just re-soften this bit out here as well. A lot of airport fence in here today. Yeah, I very much want these tanks to be visible from the train lines and the road as you come down them. I'm going to go for 4. Very much with the silo backing onto the networks here. For that very industrial visual, right? You'd also pattern this as well if you want with the oil industry stuff. And these tank farms work really nicely with the airport stuff. Which actually can be placed outside of industrial areas, so I might do that. I think I'm not going to have this road leave the terminal, because obviously our arterial structure is kind of here with the couplet, so I don't really need this to go anywhere. So once it's left the bus-only route, I'm actually going to downgrade this to industrial road. Might even go 4-lane industrial, actually. I'm going to bring it up into the airport. Even put a toll booth on this road, which I might do as well. And 2 of these, I think. We'll do 2. You can almost imagine this is mass storage, and then it's piped into these tankers once these vehicles arrive to refuel. But stored en masse here. And this will actually store oil for us, which we, again, I mentioned a factory here, didn't I? Which won't be today's episode. This will be a separate industrial build. But we could scout out a factory that uses a lot of oil product. Soft paper uses plastic and petroleum. And that might be very nice in this little crook of the interchange here, right? I suppose we'll see. Let me know any suggestions on that one down there. Fantastic. And then I think we'll go for a few hangars. We'll have these over here. Almost as if these themselves are accessible from this road. You can imagine pilots or perhaps private jet passengers making their way down here to board. Let's go ahead and bring in that toll booth as well before we forget that. Because it will take up a little bit of room. And we just want the small 2-way one. Which we'll put in, I guess, just past the terminal. That should work really quite nice with air against the rail, actually. Orientation is going to be just off the charts today, I will. Then I reckon I'll pull it up into there as well, again as if it's access. For the airfield itself. And then there's lots of fence detail that can help fill this in. Now in terms of making this kind of, I guess, accessible, I think I will just use airport aprons here. Hook them all in with uniform concrete space. Leaving some grass in the airfield though, I don't want it all to be concrete. And there's, I think, clearly pathways in this refueling asset, isn't there? Because it wants to snap to something there. And then just drag them in to fill their positions once they're in. And then, of course, it would be rude not to anarchy some planes in here. Even that one's a little big. There we go. And then we'll do maybe a medium parked plane. That is just in this space here. I'm happy with that. Let's get just a brief taster of the nighttime visual, shall we? Now we have planes moving around. Always one of my most favourite nighttime visuals, these airports. Yes, I really wish they went that way. Really wish they did. But it's fine. It's not something we can control, unfortunately. Oh, and here's someone coming into land. It should hopefully be equally as dramatic. Right over the arterial highway crossing the river and the train line. I really love the approach to landing here. And special. They arrive at Bryce Johnson Regional in downtown Illium. Isn't that just so much fun? Really like that. One more major thing to address before we start our detailing, and that'll be our air control tower, again, which has to be attached to concourse. Wouldn't mind it over here. Let's snap to a road guideline. I'm going to do a little L shape, and I'm going to node control the whole thing down to 50% like we did on the main building. And then we'll add our air control tower in here. Just pull these nodes back. It's not quite as wide. And then I'll use probably just some regular concrete surface to map that back to the runway, as if you can imagine little maintenance and shuttle vehicles taking people back and to that. Which we could probably also reinforce that vibe, maybe with just a few lights here. It'll also give us a straighter edge on that concrete as well. So we just need another one in there. So that should give them full view of the runway at least. Aviation police, I think, should be happy. As long as they don't fly into it when they take off. That's the biggest worry. That's what's flying around it, aren't they? I can deal with that, I think. And hello people. Well, it's mainly hello oil trucks. They're all coming in to fill those tanks up down there. But otherwise, if we can get a sense of how people are moving. A few people enjoying the monorail. It's not vastly busy. Significantly more enjoying the metro. Of course, which now, just to recap that route, everyone. This comes all the way through the downtown now. This will be a first-person tour video very soon, I imagine. All the way through our towers. Right across the waterfront. And then over here. Comes back into the Glassbox Metro. It's not super busy in here, but so many people here are walking, so I think it's just taking traffic off the metro. And before it swoops between buildings again. Coming all the way back through downtown. Elevating up slightly as it crosses over a monorail underneath. And up as it swoops. And switchbacks up the hills. Over this way and back into a currently undeveloped build. I'll probably wait till this build's done actually before we do that first person tour. I don't think it will likely cross over the highway there. You can almost see where the terrain wants it to cross over, don't you? As the monorail curves the other way. Which is kind of fun how that's happened actually, because this monorail is doing the figure of 8, not going that way, but the metro is. But over here the opposite has happened. The metro will terminate at an end of line, whilst the monorail continues off this way. So in this district it will leave us both with downtown monorail and metro free to build with. So that wasn't massively planned as to what was going to go over this side, but we can see how that will happen now, I think. But either way, lots of key work to do, plenty of airport detailing, terminal detailing, and surrounding network integration to work with here. As it's time to grab those snacks, as we'll be right back with detailing time-lapse. Okay everyone, let's check out Bryce Johnson Regional Airport, shall we? Around the back of the runway here we just have overgrown wetlands by the highway, general just wasteland if you like, around massive infrastructure. The usual path technique up against our bordered fences up to the keys here. We have just slightly defined the shape of the land that holds the runway here, so it's not so jagged except for where the key ends. More planes, paths and surface through here with rounding these corners off using our little airfield trick as well. Which really adds a lot, doesn't it? I wish they added something like this in the DLC. Perhaps an automatic thing, if a taxiway sits within certain proximity of a runway, it can maybe add these decals in perhaps, who knows. Unlikely. We'll get that now though. Toward the entrance, as we come into the administration area, I guess, of the airport, we have the wonderful sight lines of trains passing by, which I'm an enormous fan of the orientation we've mentioned in this episode. Fence-in, toll booth, a simple office, a Korean fire station with some fencing linking onto the back of these fuel containers here, with a really nice view across the bay. I think the town that lies here, because this will certainly be quite a dense area, I think, this close to the city centre. And these guys will have such a fantastic airport view here, right as it sits in the foreground from this coastline. So I really love the position of it. I'm so glad we went with an airport here. We've been tossing it up for the whole series. We've added in some airport lounges, of course, that come alongside the edge of the terminal. That's tiny bits of little bush and overgrowth through the airfield. No trees, of course, to please the aviation police. And then that pathwork completes up to our air control tower. So really simple, but yet quite inspired runway and taxiway configuration, pretty much taken exactly from London City Airport here. It's very similar with the water, it's kind of stacked with the networks here. So happy with it. A couple more hangars with planes inside down at the end. And before we discover more of that overgrown marshland under the networks around the coast, where the fence also brings us back in. Lots of surface painter and fence work up against the rail here. I think just helps to differentiate us a little bit from the green. Always appreciate a little bit of sandy space, especially by airports and factories and whatnot. I think it's quite tasteful. Of course, there's always one, isn't there? Let me move this monorail pillar, everyone. There you go, just move that one over there. Got that metro pillar as well. A taxi depot tucked in the corner with a couple of multi-storey action. On some non-parking roads just tucked in here. Of course, you always find the multi-stories by the airports. And I really love what we did with the terminal here to accommodate the metro station. I'm glad it's this far forward. We can get a sense of ridership now. Holy smokes, everyone, look at that. Look at that. Hello, people. You guys coming out, or is that getting on? Hold on. Hold on. Where are you going? We got 347 over here. And then 201 at the airport. We've got one full vehicle and very nearly second full one. But there's still one quite empty. Yeah, these two aren't going to clear this backlog, and that one won't make a dent either. Okay. Let's have a look at the model here then. We'll do... what current capacity on 150? I'm going to go to the Airport Express Metro purely because it's going to the airport. I would like a higher capacity, but I'll compensate with a couple of extra vehicles on that instead. See if that makes a dent in it at the detailing review at the end of next episode once we do our little review back here. So that should be quite handy. Oh, there you go. So of course these have the airport liveries on them, which is very welcome. Love this view here as well. Metro passing by multi-story. Right, isn't that amazing? Airport Express. Right here. Livery makes a massive difference. That makes it so much more thematic, doesn't it? What, airport to city centre, literally. That is literally what's happening. That makes me so happy. My word, everyone. I adore that. It's the little details, right? It really is the little details. Back to this way, I have anarchied the path through, in the idea that you can either walk between these slats or underneath them, just so they can kind of mill around this central bit of the station here. I love these little sky bridges, of course, that come back into the terminal. It's nice to make use of this space. And then down here we've got a little police station, functioning as, of course, as airport security. Some smaller, more secure parking right by the terminal building here. for the monorail, which is essentially nowhere near as busy as the metro is. But we'll see if that changes once this monorail arrives at its eventual end suburb on that division of highway over there. But we'll see. People are just jumping off the metro station rather than using the stairs, which I hadn't noticed before. Didn't realise that was happening. But I guess that's because that node is so close, which is why they're doing that. That's quite funny, I've never seen that before. And then just some general plaza space. There's a little sign here, perhaps as a memorial to someone. General waiting to pick up your loved ones at the front of the terminal building. Taxi stands knocking around. Just general front of transit space, if you like. A million different variations you can take these things in. Dropped in a slightly angled plazas and promenades bus station, which of course again, as a appreciation of livery, is also the airport express bus. So even better, right? And that's taking people back down the bus roads of the lane it's not using. Of course. Why would you use the bus lanes I gave you, right? Wonderful. As we come through here, the monorail sweeps over with mass car parking down this way. Before we arrive, a couple of nature reserve signs, perhaps indicating, you know, beyond here be admin, essentially. You know, no public access. Before you do arrive at that toll gate that we looked at earlier. With fencing, that also has these little swing gates on it. Using a few nodes here, but it's fine. We'll be alright in Illium, I think. We should be. But access to the airfield, of course. That really completes a wonderful build. Really tasteful, I think, regional airport today. It's very easy to over-design these things and overblow them, which I think is definitely the vibe for, like, international facilities. But I think for either rural or regional airfields, London City was the perfect inspiration for this build today. So a big shout out for those of you that said it in the comments, because there was quite a few of you. We'll also swing by to the other build we did last episode. Let's see if we've got any more action around here now. Ferries are still about the same. Actually interested where the bulk of these are going. Looks like they're heading to the metro, aren't they? Yeah, this bulk of people here just came from the ferries. I think a lot of them are actually getting on the quay. Which is fine. As long as they're not driving, right? You can see our buses through here as well. We can probably afford to downgrade this bus size. It's probably a little too big now for this neighbourhood. Especially with the ferries and the metro also supporting it. Just doesn't need that sort of capacity. There's still just a pure immense amount of people down this quay here, isn't there? This was like this right at the start of the city, to be fair. I would love to see, actually, if we can get along the waterfront by the arena we made last episode. Oh, there's people. That's so good. Hello, people. It's one of the busiest quays we've ever had, that, and it's busy for miles as well. Like, the whole waterfront is like this. Yeah, I think what's fueling that is them walking between the ferry stops, isn't it? And they're getting off here, walking down to the next one to go that way. And of course, all that's interconnected with more transit over these sides that links them all over the rest of the map. I think, like, the idea of the ferries has really linked the entire transit network together, I feel. I've definitely underutilized these for 7 years, these ferries. Very good. I do want to add some into the airport, but I'm going to wait until I've got somewhere to dock the ferry. It's likely to land over here somewhere in these towns we talked about. I don't know. I guess I probably shouldn't put another bridge here, should I? Especially since there's one here. I'm not sure. Maybe a local bridge over this way, but the airport ferry terminal will connect to these land masses once those towns exist. And it will probably just tuck it into the road network here, connecting it here. And open it a bit of a pathway back into the river. But we'll do that once we can send it somewhere. And always a ton of fun building a regional airport, and I hope you've managed to walk away with some inspiration indeed as how you can apply stuff we see on Google Earth to city skylines, similar terrains and topographies. So again, big thanks to those that mentioned London City. Perfect inspiration for this. An enormous shout out to the YouTube members and patrons that bankroll these videos, with a roll call to our golden patron X, Casino, Spartan Angel, Michael W, Phoenix MD, Blythe, Jamin, Great C, and Bryce Johnson. You're all heroes of the people. Thank you so much for your incredible support. If you want to get involved in that Instant Gaming Patreon, best ways to do so. Either way, enjoy some wonderful airport cinematics. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.